Republicans just voted, every single one of them, to allow Donald Trump to deport U.S. citizens. Not like deport unlawful, violent immigrants. No. They just voted in our committee to allow Donald Trump to deport U.S. citizens. That's where this is going.
Referring to the president's idea for American citizens to potentially be deported.
Because if you think being a U.S. citizen makes you safe from deportation under this Trump administration, I need you to listen closely, because right now, under Trump's second term, we're seeing something that we're never supposed to see in a constitutional democracy.
Welcome back to the channel, and a big shout out to all our subscribers, new viewers, and the creators who've documented this moment. Your footage and voices are keeping truth alive. Today, we're diving into a disturbing and deeply controversial story. In 2025, ICE deported a citizen, a legal American. Instead of outrage or reform, Republican lawmakers responded with a motion that critics say dangerously expands deportation powers. Across social media, people are calling this a calculated step toward racial control, one that places Black Americans and people of color directly in the government's crosshairs. The term milk-colored supremacy is trending, as many see this as more than a policy. It's a shift toward authoritarianism cloaked in patriotism. So what exactly happened? What does this motion allow? And why are so many saying it's the most dangerous Republican move in decades?
Right now, you're not going to believe this. I'm stunned that I have to tell you this. Republicans just voted, every single one of them, to allow Donald Trump to deport U.S. citizens. Not like deport unlawful, violent immigrants. No. They just voted in our committee to allow Donald Trump to deport U.S. citizens. That's where this is going. They just voted to allow that. I've never thought I would see this before. Never thought it would come to this, but that's where we are right now. And so just on the other side of these doors is the hearing that I'm in right now. I'm going to get back in a second because we're still voting on other matters, but it's not shocking because this is always where it was going to go, but that's a dictatorship. That's a dictatorship. It's a fucking dictatorship when you allow a president to deport your own constituents. And learn the names of every Republican on the House Judiciary Committee, because they just did that. They just voted to allow Donald Trump to deport American citizens. I mean, it's one of the most shocking things I've seen. I think my Democratic colleagues were stunned that they would want to give him so much power. But that's where it's going. It's not going to be a completed dictatorship, though, and I want to tell you why. He has the ambitions of being a dictator. For it to be a completed dictatorship, he needs you to not show up to the town square. He needs the press to not independently cover him, and he needs the courts to not hold him accountable. He should have a check by Congress. That's gone. These guys are not doing it. It's gone. But right now, the press is independently covering him. Courts continue to hold him accountable, and you keep going to the town square. So that's the sand in the gears of a dictatorship, and we gotta amp it up. We have to amp it up. Again, I just want to tell you why I invited you in here. House Judiciary Committee right now in Congress, Republicans just voted to allow Donald Trump to deport American citizens. This is the same week that we learned that the president deported a 4-year-old American citizen with cancer. And this is where they're taking us. But we're not helpless. We're not helpless at all. You are awakened. You are going to the town squares. We have small victories that will bring us big victories. We're going to cut our time in hell in half by changing the majority in Congress and putting a check in place. Let me get back into this hearing, but I wanted to tell you, as soon as I sat in that room and saw that vote, Republicans on the Judiciary Committee just voted for Donald Trump to deport American citizens. Fuck that. We're not letting that happen.
Okay, I think it's time we start talking about U.S. citizenship, because if you think being a U.S. citizen makes you safe from deportation under this Trump administration, I need you to listen closely because right now, under Trump's second term, we're seeing something that we're never supposed to see in a constitutional democracy. American citizens are being deported. I'm talking about babies, cancer patients, legal residents sent across borders, sometimes without hearings, without lawyers, and without their medicine, and without basic due process. That's not a mistake. That's not a glitch. That's a sign. 3 U.S. citizen children, one just 2 years old, another battling stage 4 cancer, were deported to Honduras with their mothers, and when the judge asked the government to verify if the mother really chose to take her children, it was too late. The plane had already taken off. Now, let that sink in. A U.S. citizen child with cancer was deported without her medication. And when Congress had a chance to put in protections to make sure that this never happens again, House Republicans voted it down. So I don't want to hear this isn't who we are, because apparently this is what we're becoming, okay? Unless we decide to stop it. And look, I get it. Trump says that he's only targeting criminals. But here's the truth. Once you break the law to exile citizens, once you ignore courts' orders to sideline immigration judges, you're not just fighting crime, you're fighting the Constitution. And even worse, Trump has already openly floated the idea of sending U.S. citizens, the so-called homegrown criminals, to foreign prisons. He even joked that mistakes are just part of life. That's not leadership. That is authoritarianism testing the waters. So here's what we have to understand, that the Constitution protects all citizens from unlawful exile. Due process isn't optional. It's a cornerstone of democracy. And when government starts picking and choosing who gets to stay based on politics, race, or convenience, nobody's safe. Our citizenship is truly safe. So we are witnessing the slow erosion of the rule of law, one executive order at a time. And if we don't fight back with knowledge, with votes, with lawsuits, with clarity, we're going to wake up in a country where your rights only exist until someone more powerful says they don't. So I'll leave you with this. Citizenship without rights is just paperwork, and democracy without accountability is just theater. Now's the time to choose fear or freedom. What side are you on?
America is officially fucked. Republicans just voted against protecting American citizens from actually being deported. Every single House Republican voted no to an amendment that would stop ICE from using federal resources to detain or deport U.S. citizens. That means they're totally fine with American citizens born and raised here getting caught up and kicked the fuck out. Let that shit sink in.
U.S. citizens must be allowed back into the United States. There is no person at an airport who can stop you from coming back internationally, even if you're a naturalized U.S. citizen, even if you were not even born in the United States but you have that U.S. passport, even if you have 1 gazillion crimes against you. Even Hannibal Lecter would be allowed back in with his U.S. passport. Let me be clear. Nobody at the airport can take your U.S. citizenship away or prevent you from entering. Obviously, if there's warrants out for your arrest, you're going to get arrested. Everybody still has to go through customs. So if you have contraband, drugs, goods that you haven't declared, yes, you could have some questions asked of you, or perhaps even run into some trouble. But nobody with a passport can be denied entry or get deported at an airport. The only person who can take your U.S. passport away is a federal judge. And that would be through a denaturalization process that you would know is going on well in advance. So U.S. passport, stop worrying.
Let's break it down. In March 2025, ICE deported a black man born in Georgia. Despite being a U.S. citizen, he was held for weeks without proper access to legal help. Before his family could intervene, he was deported to Haiti, a country he had never been to. Instead of taking accountability, Republicans introduced a motion they claimed would strengthen citizenship security. But legal experts and civil rights groups say the language is vague and dangerous, granting broad powers to question and revoke citizenship under national security pretenses. Every single Republican in the House voted for the motion. Outrage followed immediately. Protests broke out. Legal analysts warned this opens the door to citizenship being treated as conditional, especially for Black and brown Americans. Online, people are calling this a step toward milk-colored supremacy. Signs at protests read, "Citizenship is not conditional. This is what milk-colored supremacy looks like. First, they came for us, while Republican leaders deny the racial implications. Many are pointing out that the motion doesn't fix ICE or address wrongful deportations. It instead increases executive power, specifically under Trump's leadership, to define who is truly American.
Take a look at this real quick.
You're referring to the president's idea for American citizens to potentially be deported. These would.
You heard that right. She said you're referring to the idea that American citizens could potentially be deported. She started out by saying that it was something that Fearless Leader has discussed more than once, that it's an idea that he's floating around. Then she goes on to justify it by trying to say that these would be violent offenders of the most heinous crimes, but we know what would happen. It would be the same thing that's already happening. It would only be illegal immigrants that were deported, but oh, that one guy that we picked up and sent to El Salvador, that was a mistake. It would only be violent offenders that would be deported. But oh, you know what? These college students that were protesting against my policies, a couple of them got sent over, and that was a mistake. And we're not going to do anything about it. And that would continue to happen. And then they would justify it by saying, oh, well, they were inciting violence. They were doing this. They were doing that. American citizens are American citizens. Are American citizens. Period. End of story. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Are we so weak that we can't handle our own criminals? Because that's the first implication. We can't deal with our own criminals, so we're going to send them to another country so that country can deal with them because we're not strong enough and we're not capable enough to do it ourselves. That's problem number one. That's implication number one. Implication number two is, how do you people not see this is World War II Germany all over again? It makes no sense. How is it not? It's blinding. It's fucking blinding. I can't even hardly talk about it anymore. I can't decide what content to make because there's just so God blessed much of it. How do you people not see this? How do you still support this man when he's talking about deporting American citizens? American citizens. American citizens. You don't need to go any further than that. I don't want to hear your reasons. I don't want to hear your excuses. I don't want to hear your justifications. American fucking citizens, period, full stop. I don't care if they're criminals. I don't care who they are. I don't care what they've done. You are trying to set a precedent of deporting American citizens. And if you don't see the fucking problem with that, I don't know what to tell you. We've been saying this was coming. We've been saying this is what it was leading to the entire time, since before you fuckers voted him into office. But you know what? She had a weird laugh.
Republicans just voted against preventing ICE from deporting U.S. citizens. Watch this.
Raise your hand if you do not think children with cancer who are American citizens should be deported.
Do not think.
Looks like it's all the Democrats and none of the Republicans.
During a committee meeting on Wednesday, House Democrats, and I can't believe they actually had to do this, had to file an amendment to a budget bill proposing that ICE does not deport U.S. citizens. Why would they have to make such an obvious amendment? Because U.S. citizen children were deported just last week. But to no surprise, every single Republican said no, meaning they are completely okay with defying the U.S. Constitution and deporting U.S. citizens. The fact that Democrats had to introduce a formal amendment to not violate the Constitution is batshit crazy.
I mean, this little sheet of paper just says, please follow the law and give an American citizen their rights, which you can still debate in court, but the premise is they have some. So I'm just so bizarrely confused. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, so then if you are gonna not support this, then like what happens when an American, one of your constituents, one of your neighbors, heck, a family member goes overseas and gets snatched? You're not gonna fight to bring them home? I was like, well, wow, deport to where? Because like if you're an American, you're gonna deport an American to where? What the heck? because I can't say what I'm really thinking.
This moment is more than a mistake. It's a turning point. Deporting a citizen is unconstitutional. Expanding the powers that allowed it to happen isn't just reckless. It's dangerous. And when all Republican representatives vote to support such a motion, people have every reason to question the motives. For communities of color, especially Black Americans, this is a chilling confirmation of what they've long known, that systems of power often see them as targets, not citizens. We'll continue covering this story and amplifying the voices pushing back. If this video helped clarify what's happening, please like, comment, and share. Subscribe for ongoing updates. And to the creators, protesters, and everyday Americans demanding justice, we see you. We support you. Until next time, stay sharp, stay loud, and stay ready.